Oh, look at that, right on 12:30. Okay, presenting dressing gown day. I've been really busy today. I have worked really hard and I haven't had time to go and pay some attention to myself, which I will do after this, when I have some lunch. I decided that I'd change the cards today. I have a huntsman sitting on the blind right in front of me here. So hopefully he doesn't choose or decide to jump while I'm doing this live. If I scream and run, you know that he's jumped. He's not real big, maybe the size of a 20-cent piece, maybe a little bit bigger than that, but still. He's sharing this bedroom and I'm okay with him being here. Hey, Jeanette, how you going? Hey, Jane, how are you? Um, so I thought I'd do something different today. So I've put the other cards away and I thought I'm going to do some different cards for you. This is the Fairies Oracle. Now, this book is absolutely stunning. It's a hardcover. Hey, Gigi, how Lauren? Hi, Jules. How you going? A huntsman? Yep, just there. Hi, how are you, Jody? He's not real big, Lauren. Probably about a little bit bigger than that. Maybe about that big. He's not real big. I get a lot of them in this house. If they stay there, that's fine. If he decides to take a jump, you'll see me go. I'm okay with them. I've had close contact with, we've had close encounters with them before, so we know what close encounters are. Yeah, that's not big, Gigi. That's only little for a huntsman. It's not unusual to find them like the size of your hand. They get quite big. They do bite, but they're not poisonous. They can make you a little bit aggravated, a little bit sick, but yeah, sometimes they sort of stay where they are. I've seen them rear up before, so they can be, yeah, Australian spiders are, huntsmen are really big, but you don't really worry too much about huntsmen. You worry about funnel webs. But really nobody's died from a funnel web bite for many, many years. So, okay, so I was going to draw you a card from the Fairy Oracle today. And I fell in love with this deck a very, very long time ago. And I've got Nellie's The Alchemist coming out here. Card 27. As I said, the book is really beautiful. Golly, I went nearly to the page then. The book is absolutely beautiful, but it's hardcover. And I actually bought the book for my granddaughter because it was just the illustrations are amazing. So I'm going to read you a little bit from this because the main theme here, which Brian Froud, I think his name is, has written is fairies hide what you want and reveal what you need. So something's about to be revealed to you here that perhaps you never really wanted or never thought you wanted, but it's about to be revealed. This is about inner transformation and irrevocable change. So in fairy and sometimes in our world, alchemy is the study and practice of transforming the soul from the lead of primitive conditioned reactions to the gold of spiritual and practical attainment. Nellie's is mistress of the alchemical arts, and she also understands that daily life is a spiritual exercise. She recognizes that transformation may take place from the inside out or from the outside in. When things are stuck and movement has become impossible, Nellie's firmly waves her own wand and things happen in ourselves and sometimes in the world. Sometimes things that cannot move without readjustment, perhaps even radical alignment. We may feel we should be able to bring our plans to fruition, but we may be aiming at the impossible, or at least at the very inappropriate. Part of the impossibility or inappropriateness may be a result of our own attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors. And there we go again. And part of it may be circumstances in our world or things that are beyond our control. Often inner transformation is required in order to achieve what we wish for in the outer world, just as conversely, changes in the outer world often elicit inner transformation. Personal inner change is the truest transformation of all, and in the long run, it's the only change that really matters. Nellie points out a path we can follow, Jonathan observes, but she does not lead us by the hand, although she may give us a nudge if we seem to need it. When an Oracle group member was looking at Nellie's, a giggling fairy voice said, "If you concentrate very hard, you can get to the bottom of the problem." I do note you can see her bottom there too. When Nellie's turns up in your reading, get ready for things to happen inwardly and outwardly. The stuck becomes unstuck. The blocked begins to move. You may have to run to keep up with the speed at which the situation around you is moving. You may also be surprised by the direction things and you are taking. You may find your plans, even your desires and dreams, changing as a transformative process takes place. It might not have been in your plans, but later on you will look back and say, wow, it wasn't what I expected, but it was just what I needed. When we have been through such an alchemical process, we can never go back to what we were before, which is probably just as well. Interesting, isn't it? So it's even come out in these cards about the changes we're undergoing and the letting go of the old and allowing the new to come in, even if it's something unexpected or maybe something you weren't expecting. It's coming, whatever it needs to be. Hi, I've missed a few people there. Hi, BB, how you going? Hey, Wendy, how are you? Scott, how you going? Queen of Water. Okay. I'm not sure if I'm following the conversation on there, but that's okay. I'm very well, thank you, Samantha. How are you going? Nice to see you on here. Transformation everywhere at the moment, Laurie. And you know what, Lauren? It's amazing because I agree with what they're saying. You know, what I wanted, 12 months ago is very, very different to what I want now. And the trouble is we get so engrossed in what we think we want, we don't really look for what really is best for us a lot of the time. Anyway, so I thought I'd have a look at this deck as well. This deck's called the Wings of Wisdom. It was a gift for me here. So I've got two out that were a gift, and the fairies one I bought for myself a long time ago. But I'm going to read this one to you, and it's called Flying Fish. So let's find it in my book. I hope they've put them in alphabetical order. Yes, they have. How cool is that? All right. Okay, so flying fish is a unique marine creature capable of launching itself from the water and gliding gracefully through the air before returning to the water once more. Flying fish can teach the soul how to let go of the fear and attachment that keeps us confined to the world we know. Unbelievable. It's all what we've been talking about. It encourages us to be open to exploring unfamiliar territory, becoming, at least temporarily, a fish out of water. A brief journey through the world, unlike our own, can be revitalizing and refreshing. It can help us outgrow beliefs and become more open-minded, happy, interesting, and free. Flying fish connects with the soul when there's an opportunity to broaden one's horizons through travel or new experiences that will open the mind and soul. This applies equally to adventures in the physical world and in the uncharted realms of our psyche. Even when it doesn't have a particularly spiritual quality, charting new territories will help the soul to grow, loosen fear-based attachment and stuckness, and allow something different to emerge from within. Flying fish brings the message that we are meant to discover the new and the invigorating, and it's okay to feel like we are out of our element for a while through that process. When the time is right, we naturally return to our known world, albeit with a different perspective and more freedom of mind, body, and soul. It's really interesting. It says here, flying fish leaps to avoid predators. This represents the leaps we can be triggered to take to avoid or overcome negative circumstances and blessings bestowed to us through challenge, and an ability to outmaneuver forces trying to prevent our success by rising above. Flying fish teaches the soul to trust its wings, to take the leaps of faith necessary to get out of toxic situations, and to move swiftly towards freedom and spiritual grace with confidence. Well, to be honest with you, I could read off the back of the card because the card is just a summary of that. But it's talking about having confidence and taking that leap of faith, leaving situations behind that are really toxic and people who are very toxic. So that's really interesting that that came out as well, because at the moment it's sort of talking about us moving on from things and learning from things. So I think that's really beautiful. I'll leave the other deck for tomorrow, but I really like that deck. So that's quite interesting. It's a really nice deck actually, which is really good. Flying fish. Yeah, talking about leaving attachments, letting attachments go, letting toxic people go. I feel like we're really starting to release a lot, Lauren. I think it's a part of the time being right for this, and for time to really understand, what our purposes are. So it's really beautiful. Getting rid of attachments, yep. Cleansing, taking toxic people out. Hey Moira, how you going? Which I think that we're all learning to identify in our lives is the toxicity of people. But a lot of people, you've been doing a lot of the amazing work. Yeah, Jules, I think when you're sort of once you're in the water, you might as well swim, right? I took it on myself this morning. Somebody the other day here was saying they'd gone for an Akashic clearing or Akashic healing. And I haven't done anything for a long while. So I found somebody who resonated with me to do one for me, to try and help me clear some of my energies. Lauren, sometimes you can do a lot of work, but there seems to be something that I'm missing somewhere. And I feel like I'll explain in a moment, Jeanette. I feel like I've got to a point where perhaps I need someone else to sort of have a little bit of insight for me. So the Akashic records, a lot of people don't sort of understand the concept, but it's the idea that I know it's right. I've had one done many years ago and it really blew me out of the water how much somebody could identify from the records that I wrote before I was born. So what happens is before you come to the earth, when you are still a soul, you write out your plan of what you want to learn in your lifetime and what you want to experience as a human being. So it may be around relationships, it may be about who you're going to be born to, where you're going to be born, how wealthy or non-wealthy you are, but it's to help you work your way through experiences. And when you have one, the one I had done many years ago, it sort of talked about where I was on my journey, and there were so many things that correlated with where I was at. It was really quite emotional reading it. And the girl who sent it to me said, make sure when you read it, you have time to really sit down and digest, because it may be quite cathartic for you to read it. And it talks about all of the things that you have to learn in this lifetime. And I remember having my birth chart done many years ago, and there were certain things in that came up in the Akashic reading as well, around learning to work with others, learning to be more sociable. There was a lot of things, learning the concept of trust, but something needed to be done. So I've been doing a lot of work on myself, and someone in here said they'd been for an Akashic healing, and I thought maybe it's time to have that done again, because when you have your Akashic records done, and you can do your own, you can learn to do your own, but when you have them done, they sort of talk about how far you are into your journey. So it may be that you are on a journey to learn how to trust people, and in the first reading I had done, it said I was, say, at 60%. So then I became really, really dedicated to increasing my ability to trust more. So I started looking deeper at my levels of trust with people to try and sort of understand how I could trust more. So being that's been probably maybe 10 years ago since I had that done, I decided this morning, and I just found someone, and it's quite expensive to have done, but I really feel that it was time to sort of help me get across the line a little bit. So, like many of you, I've been on a twin flame journey. I have obviously done a lot of spiritual work, and now, of course, I'm public with my spiritual work, which I wasn't for many years. I've worked on a lot of the childhood stuff. I've certainly worked a lot on how to treat my physical body, how to work with ego, how to allow ego to go. I've learned a lot about my throat chakra and speaking up for myself. I've learned how to separate from people that I know aren't good for me. And I've understood the patterns in my life and the things that I do that sort of keep taking me round and round in circles, which many of you have done many of those same things. So we're all on a very similar journey. It's just that some of us are in a different place to what other people are. But there's sort of this feeling that I keep missing something. And I've been like that for the last couple of years. And it's sort of like it's almost like it's there sometimes. I can almost taste it. So I feel like now I'm ready to have that last step in my journey to try and move me to where I need to be. So I want to level up now, and I know the universe has got the next level ready for me. They've told me that I'm ready for the next level, but it's like I have to pass this test first, and I can't quite work out what it is. So I'm now willing to put myself in someone else's hands to get that last bit of insight that will get me across the line. I have a feeling I've had some really strong visions in the last few years around where my journey is taking me, and so I have no doubt of where I'm being led. And I know that my abilities are growing stronger, and I realized that last night when I was doing some mediumship readings about how I am accessing the other worlds much more easily, and that has become a bit sort of exciting, I guess, to know that I can do that. And sometimes when I'm working with people like that, I'm absolutely floored by how that happens. But it's okay. I'm good with that. But I think what I need to do is I need to understand I need to understand what the next step needs to be. So I'm willing now to dig deep and get someone else to have a little bit of a look for me. So I'll let you know how I go. It's quite interesting. I know I've been told a lot of things that I will achieve this year. I know that some of you beautiful people on here, the Mayan civilization, my main spirit guide is an Aztec. So that sort of timing for me is really relevant. A huge temple. Yeah, I think I was a goddess. That's why I think somebody called me the Aussie goddess at some stage or another. I've had visions of dying very young, but leading an army to war. And I feel like I may have been sort of like a priestess. So I've sort of touched base with some of that life, Jules, and it's been really important to me. But I know I have a greater ability to heal than what I'm currently using. So I'm really excited about taking the next step, but I just need some guidance in the right area. So I'm really excited for it too. I feel that it's time to embrace the next step of the journey, as many of you are. I certainly am not scared of anything anymore. I know that this year is a turning point, and I know it's on its way. But I'm really excited to find out what's next. I don't think there's anything wrong with questioning, Lauren. You know, when I was a kid, people used to call me Alice in Wonderland, and I'm never really sure whether that's because I was always off with the pixies or whether it's because I was so curious. I was always curious, and people knocked it out of me, like left, right, and centre. I got told, stop asking so many questions. What do you need to know for? Leave it alone. I wanted to know, and I still do. If somebody comes in and says they need, I don't know, a wing wong for a goose's bridle, I want to know why they need that. What is it going to do? How is it going to improve things? So I'm still as big a curiosity as there ever was. And I think we're all going to find a lot of turning this year. I think this is what we're heading for at the moment. And And I think that a lot of you are going to find that you have got access to gifts that you've probably had all along, but you haven't really been confident or accepting enough to know that that's what was coming your way. So I think people are all going to get leveled up if you're open. And hopefully then I can lead many of you into the next steps on your journey too, which I know is part of my journey. So I know part of my journey is sharing my stories. And that was particularly difficult for me when I first started because I wasn't very good about doing that sharing thing. But I'm getting really good at it now. Yeah, Capricorns are about to go in. That eclipse on the 5th of July is in Capricorn again. So big year for Capricorns. Wore your Alice in Wonderland PJs last night. That's pretty cool. I think it's really important for us to understand, what we're capable of. I talk to people about this that I talk to friends, people on, who've been on the journey for a while. I don't think as human beings, and Jules might agree with me here because she's been on the journey for a while. I think it's really, hey Stacey, how you going? It's really important for you guys to really understand what you're capable of. And I don't think that we do. I think we're so entrenched in the 3D world and so entrenched in our lives that we don't really know what is on offer beyond that. Yeah, see, that's beautiful, Jeanette. And I hope that lots of people may realise that this year is a big turning point for them. I think by next year, you're going to be looking back at this year going, wow, like how much has my life changed in the last 12 months? We have had so many movements. There you go. Thanks, Jules. I wondered that because I've been drawn to do the Akashic Records for a very long time. I've even got a course ready to do, but hello, Margie, how you going? I wondered if that's what the calling was. But I tell you what happened. I'll tell you about one of my visions. I had an alien creature come to see me. And I've got, if I could share photos with you, I would. On the day that this happened, I was in a little town. I'd gone to do some readings. I've had some incredible experiences, but I'd taken a selfie in the hotel room and gone, look at me, I'm on holidays or whatever I was doing. And I actually had people in my glasses, very, very clearly. There was nobody else in the room. There was no pictures. There was nothing. Yes, it was with Tammy. So this alien came to me and said to me that they were giving me access to the underworld, and they brought in the Egyptian god, and I've completely gone blank, to talk to me about that. And I was like really curious. I was like, okay, what am I going to do with the underworld? I just didn't quite understand what that's about, but it was something to do with the mediumship work, and I've sort of learned that along the way. On the very same holiday, I stayed in Noosaville, Tewantin, and my sister lives in Caloundra, so I was going to spend some time with her, and I had stayed at this resort before and really enjoyed it there, so I booked another week there. And on the very first night I was there, my bed started to shake really, really strong. I have videos of it, but it's hard to see in videos. But the bed was shaking so hard that I ended up getting out of bed because I was a little freaked out. And when I got out of bed, I couldn't feel the shaking, but I could hear the room shaking. Anyway, so I went outside. I thought maybe it's really windy outside, and it's blowing against the place. And I went outside, there was no wind. So I went back inside and I thought, okay. So I got back into bed and the bed was still again. And I went to go off to sleep and the bed started shaking again. And this time it shook so hard that I had to get out of bed because I couldn't, it was like full on shaking backwards and forwards. And I couldn't sleep in the bed the way it was. So I said, whoever's out there, you need to stop doing this. This is not funny. You're scaring me and I don't want it to happen anymore. And I got in the bed and it stopped. I could sense presence in the room. I could sense people in the room. I wasn't scared, but it was scaring me because of the way the bed was shaking. Anyway, so I went off to sleep, nothing more. And in the middle of the day, the next day, I went into the bedroom and thought I'd read a book. So I'll sit in the bed. Nothing happened. That night, I went to bed and I was asleep when it started to happen. And it happened for 4 nights that I was there. And in the end, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go with this, like, just bear with it. And I waited and I let it happen. I didn't stop it and I let it happen. I photographed it, I took videos of it. And then I let it go. I just went, you know what, they're going to keep doing it anyway. And I allowed it to happen. And after the 4th day, it stopped. And I waited for it after that. I was sort of waiting for it to happen and it never did. And there was no reason for the place to do that. We were on a river, there's no train tracks, there's no roads, there was no wind, and I can't understand why I only did it at nighttime, and all 4 times were at different times of the night. I tried everything. I tried working out where the bed was shaking, the whole works, couldn't do a thing. My sister came over and stayed with me on the last night, and she was like, "Is it gonna do it?" And I was like, "I hope so that you can see it." She said, "I'm a little bit scared." I said, "Don't be scared, it's fine." But it never did it again. But she said she could feel the presence of 2 people in the room. They were really tall. So I feel that that was the alien connection again. So you might think that I'm a little bit crazy, but I actually have it on video, and I can honestly tell you that I got out of bed, walked around the room, checked everything out. My logical brain, I'm like, something's going on here, and got back into bed for the first 4 nights, and it just happened. And in the end, I thought, you know what, I'm obviously fighting it, and they're obviously trying to download something. So once I decided that, I would just accept it and roll with it, I think whatever it was they were trying to do, and they did tell me back at the other place that I was in that they were going to give me something, but I just didn't realize what it was, and I still haven't quite discovered it. So it's waiting for me. I know that. I love that, Gigi. I'm not scared of anything like that anymore. The only reason I was scared of this was because it was almost throwing me out of the bed. Like, seriously, was nearly throwing me out of the bed. If I could work out where the videos were, I'd share them with you. Okay, so you've had a vibrating bed before. Yeah, it's sort of weird, isn't it? That they must be downloading when they're doing that. Yeah, it's been a bit amazing. So now I'm ready to embrace the next thing. I've been through, like, quite a lot of stuff in the last 12 months, a lot of personal stuff, personal and family. But I feel like I'm ready now to take the next step. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. But when I showed someone the photograph after I'd had this dream of this alien and this god from the underworld talking to me, I showed someone the photograph and went, "Oh, okay, that's interesting. I have all these people in my glasses." I'd picked up all the spirits around me, and physically you can see them standing there. And someone said maybe there was a reflection off the television. I was like, I didn't have a television on. There was no one else in the room, and I think there was one picture on the wall, but it was nowhere near where I was standing. So it's all very interesting, isn't it? So yeah, so now I'm looking for that thing that I'm ready to accept now. I feel ready to accept it. Oh wow, Moonstone, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I think that sometimes too we have those experiences, but we don't really know how to relate them to the spiritual world. Like, how many times do things happen and you sort of, yeah, Lauren, that's exactly what I'm talking about. How many times do things happen and you go, "Oh, that's just that," or because I'm always looking for a logical reason. My logical brain still clicks in, and I think, what was that? Where was that? What is this? What's going on? So I just think it's really interesting that, for some of us, you start to see and understand. You know what? Honey, I think that a lot of the time we get messages and think, I mean, how many times, okay, just to give you examples, how many times do you think of someone and they call? How many times do you think about something in particular? It might be a music, might be a song, might be something on the television, might be a movie you haven't seen for a long while, and the next minute it's on the television. Or how often, yeah, I'd make sure spirits stay out of my bedroom every night when I go to bed. I ask them to stay out of my bedroom, otherwise they're too noisy. So, yeah, I think a lot of the time we do have the experiences, but we tend to sort of make logic out of them. We try to find a way to reason because, a lot of people are scared of what can happen. And if you're scared, then sometimes I think if you make logic of something, it's just easier to digest. Um, yeah, see, there you go. You thought you were bananas. Probably not, Hayley. Probably not. But as I said, I think that once you start accepting, once you've sort of got to the point of acceptance that, there is something greater than us out there and something more going on, then I think that you accept those experiences into your life more. Um, it's really yeah, I get it, Jules, I do. But it's sort of really it's really strange how we are just so used to sort of nudging things away or just not really taking them on board. Um, but once you start to sort of do and say things, you somehow or another you start to accept that that is just normal then. But I still have some really strange things happening um, along the way. And I guess if I could be, I could discount that and say it was something else. But you know what? I went through everything that night trying to work out what could possibly make my bed shake like crazy, but yet not move the house. I could hear the bed shaking, but the house wasn't moving. And when I got out of bed, it stopped. So it's sort of like you can make logic of it if you want to, but sometimes there is just no possible logical explanation. I'm sorry, no possible. I often feel people sitting on my bed. I bet you've all had that experience where you're laying in bed and you actually feel something sitting on your bed. We've all had lots of people have had that experience. And I've had people who've been such skeptics, who've had the deepest experiences of all, but just discount them. They don't take any notice of them. They don't think that they're real. I remember this guy once saying that when his grandmother died, he knew she died because she came and spoke to him, and he sort of came out of his daze and went, "Oh, okay, that's my grandmother," but didn't realize she'd died. But saw her and spoke to her and then went, "Oh, what am I thinking? What am I doing?" And then sort of went about his business, and then, of course, got the news she died at the very moment he saw her. And this was a man who was extremely logical and so skeptical, and he laughed about it, and he was like, "Oh, it must have been my imagination." I'm like, "Really?" Trying to put that down to imagination, but that's how people do it. So they, "Oh, Moonstone's going already." "Oh, never mind, we'll catch you next time." Yeah, I had some great experience when I was a kid, Jules, but, again, with that whole, your family thinking you're quite mad, and I think that that is the really sad part. Like, if my kids came to me now and said, my daughter's really perceptive, and sometimes when she talks and says things, I think, wow, she's so incredibly in tune, but she's comfortable with that because I've always made her feel comfortable. Um, but I certainly think that when most of us were children, if you went to your parents and said something really obscure, you were probably going to get knocked down to size. Hey, Susan, how you going? Yeah, my granddaughter, the littlest granddaughter, came to me at one stage and she said to me, "Stop it. Do you talk to spirits? Is that?" That's my iPad talking. My granddaughter, who's 10 now, and I think she would have been maybe 9 at the time, and she came to me and she said to me, "Nonny, do you speak to spirits?" And I said, "Yes." And um, she said something about it, and I said, "Does it scare you?" And she went, "No, not at all." And I went, "Oh, that's okay then." So I went back to her mother later and I said, "Did you speak to Ivy about what I do?" Because I'd never broached it with her. And Sarah said to me, "No, I've never spoken to her about it. She'd worked it out for herself." Yeah, the cat. I feel I've tripped over my dog a few times. He's been dead for 2 years, and I still keep tripping over him because he's always around. I always have the iPad and my phone go off all the time when I'm talking, but they never do it any other time other than when I'm in here. So last night I was doing some readings and I just finished a mediumship reading, and there was a really strange noise in my hallway. And I was like, what is that noise? And it was like something was shuffling. And I sort of went, oh, I'll check on it afterwards because I was busy doing readings. And next minute there was a crash and I went out and my picture was on the floor out there. So I know somebody's playing tricks with me around here at the moment. But yeah, they come through the iPad all the time, which I think is quite interesting. Yeah, what is this? Siri. It's the Siri guy. Sometimes he comes in on my phone and sometimes he comes in on my iPad. Only when I'm in here. Never happens when I've got my iPad on my phone in the bedroom, lounge room, anywhere, but in here every time. And I think it's because we're raising the vibration because we're grouped together. So I think we're sort of bringing up the vibration a little bit. Haha, uncle. I think that's quite interesting you would say that, Jules. Um, and it probably is, honey. It probably is, a hand on your back. This is what I'm saying. I think that a lot of the time we have these experiences, but we don't always think that they're spirit. We think that they are, just coincidences or just feelings. But sometimes I don't know about you, but sometimes they happen and you sort of really feel like there's somebody there. That happens a lot. And that's what I said, this one in the hallway. I've had pictures on my walls for years. I've never had a picture fall down, but it wasn't that the picture fell down. I could hear it moving around before it finally went to the ground. So someone's knocked it or moved it to get it to fall off. And I always say that when I'm doing mediumship readings with people, I always say to them, just talk to the people that are there, because if they're trying to get your attention, then you need to acknowledge they're there with you. Now, the other thing I remember years ago, I'm particularly bad at eating fruit and veggies, and I may have told you this story before. Never been a big veggie person, never really been a great big salad. I eat vegetables and I eat salad and fruit, but I'm not a big fan. I eat it because I know it's good for me, really. And I remember going through a period of time where I was really slack with my health. I really was. I was not paying attention at all. And I went to a woman, I would have been probably 20. And I went to a woman for a reading and she said to me, your grandmother's with you. And I said, I know, because I can smell the flowers all the time when she's around me. Because she had geraniums growing in window boxes in her unit, and I could smell them all the time. So I knew she was around me. And she said to me, she said, you need to eat your fruit and vegetables. And at the time, I'd been going through this voice in my head all the time. You need to eat your fruit and vegetables. You need to eat your fruit and vegetables. And I kept trying to ignore it. I was like, oh, it's just me feeling guilty for not doing it. But it wasn't. It was my grandmother chasing me around. Did I miss something there? Yeah, I think we need to be open with our children too. Absolutely. 9/11, yeah, I saw the plane go into the building too. I saw the second plane go into the building. So what happened was we were all watching the television. The first plane hit, and I said, oh my goodness, there's another one coming. There's something else coming. It's about to hit. And then the second plane hit. And she was only 10. Wow, that's really incredible, isn't it? Um, I like that, honey. Paul Belt in the middle of winter. Yeah, I think that there probably are some creepy ones around, Jules. I get that. I really do. Um, oh, gardenias and roses. Now, gardenia is a smell, and roses are smells I love too. So I reckon when I go, there'll be the smells I make sure everybody else can smell with me. Um, what does the huntsman want us to know? Yeah, a lot of people are really very intuitive and very magical. Very magical, but they hide it away from the world for fear of reprisal. And I guess when you've come from a world where witches were burned at the stake and, dunked and drowned and whatever else, I think, we probably all grew up with the fear of that. But like I always say, how scary is that for religion? People would have, if we'd have known all our powers way back when, we would have been such a powerful force. If you're already raising the vibration in this room with the electronics, then what could we be doing as a nation if we accepted spirituality and the gifts we have? But a lot of people don't, and that's a little bit sad. But as I said, I don't think that most of us realize the power of what we have because we've never really been taught to use it. So the power of our imagination and the power of, what we can create is very, very obvious. The huntsman's eavesdropping. He could be. He could be a spirit. Who knows? But he's there. I would take a picture, but I can't. I could show you. Hang on a second. Let's see if I can. Let's try a little trick. I'll try and bring him up to size. Okay. How cool is that? So he's probably about that big in real terms. But that's what he looks like on my blind. So he's just waiting, watching. Would you like to name him? Yeah, he's a baby. I've got quite. Oh, he's decided to move now. Oh, now look what you've done. He's actually moving now. Because he knows I've taken his picture. Hang on. Oh, don't go. Okay. So he's oh, I got him kneeling. You can actually sort of see him moving here a little bit. Hang on. Right. Oh, let's go back again. Is it that way or it's that way? Okay. Yeah, as you can just see him moving. See? That's what he was doing, and that's him moving. So he's gone now. He's completely gone. Okay. I don't want to restart. Okay, there you go. Hercules, Patrick, Charlie, Haley, Jules, Hunter, Patrick. Oh, I like that. This isn't my bedroom. This isn't my bedroom. This is my office. So my bedroom's next door. So I always say to the spiders when I see them, oh, he's up on the ceiling now. Well, I always say to the spiders when they're here, don't come into my bedroom and then you can stay as long as you're not in my bedroom. Because if you're in my bedroom, I have to get rid of you. I can't sleep with you there. But he is now up there on the ceiling. But he's going to look a lot smaller now because he's moving across the ceiling and he's going to be right above me, guys. So that may be a deal breaker because he's right above me. So if you hear me scream, it's because he's dropped. He's not real big though. But he is making his way over to where I am. Too funny. So what did we end up with? Conan. We've hurt his feelings, we might have done. He's heading out of the room. Nope, I'd be out of that room. Ew. So we ended up with Patrick. I like Patrick. Yeah, I tell you a little story with the kid's father died last year, and my grandson Max, who's not barely 2, um, he came in and started speaking to Jay and Gemma about Poppy, and he gave them Peter's driver's license. So they must have given it to him, or Peter gave it to him when he was little, which had a picture of him on there. And he gave it to Gemma, and he said, "It's Poppy." And Gemma said the date on the driver's license was the date that happened. So on the driver's license, it was the 3rd of May. And that was the day when Max came out and gave them the driver's license and went, "It's Poppy." So kids are really good. They're very perceptive. He's going in the opposite direction now. So I feel a little better now that he's not going to drop on me. So I often see him walking around and I'm not really clairvoyant. I don't have clairvoyance. I don't see spirit in its form. I see energy, I feel energy, I interpret the energy. So I'm very much, some people call it clairsentient, but it's gut feeling. And then I form the images in my head. So that's how I see spirit. Some people see spirit, but every now and again I do see a spirit. So I often at my daughter-in-law and son's place, I will actually see him moving around. So I don't see a clear picture of him walking. I just see his shadow walking across hallways or moving around. So we ended up with Patrick, right? Scott's going. See you, Scott. Have a good one. Hey, Emily. I don't know where you've come from, but you're there. Sometimes I look up and I think I haven't said hello to you. Oh, hey, Laurie. How are you going? You've come out of nowhere too. Patrick is on the run. He's now right down the end. But that size that he is, I've had 4 or 5 spiders around about that size. So I actually think I've probably had a nest of them because I've had them around. Now, that's probably comfortable for me. I don't have any problem with that. As long as he doesn't land on me, I don't have an issue. I'm not really as comfortable with the really, really big huntsman. I can remember trying to kill him a couple of times and it nearly broke my heart. I don't really like doing it. And I remember reading, because one time I tried to kill this the biggest huntsman I've ever seen. It was absolutely huge. And my daughter and I were on the lounge and it was trying to come towards me. I'm like, "I'm trying to kill you. Why are you coming towards me? Run away." But I read somewhere that when you kill a spider, it immediately goes for the highest spot because it wants to be protected. Oh my goodness. And that was it for me. I couldn't kill a spider after that. I thought I was trying to kill something and it's trying to run to safety. Like, hello? No, I couldn't do it after that. How would that particular spider, I tried so many times. Its body was as big as my thumb with no word of a lie. And it was so big that I kept hitting it and it just was so hard and so tough. I couldn't break its body. And it was just so distressing and so traumatic for me. I could not do it again. So now if they're around, as long as they're not in my bedroom, I'm okay. I just try and ignore them. I think they go away after a time. When my daughter came over, she said to me, "Nope, not in the house." No, not in the house. And she said, I'll give you the number so you can have someone come in and spray so that they stay out. But I have lots of trees around this place. So I think that when it's windy, especially, we tend to get them around. So yeah. Yeah, Moira, they do get the one I had was as big as my hand. Easy. It was huge. And my daughter had woken up at 3:00 in the morning, mind you, in her bed and said to me, "There's a spider in the lounge room." I said, "How do you know that at 3:00 in the morning?" She said, "I just felt it." So I got out of bed and I go and look in the lounge room and there we go, big spider on the lounge room ceiling. So I thought I'd be really clever at first. I grabbed a big encyclopedia in the days when we had books and I got underneath it and just threw the book up thinking that I would just hit the spider and it would just die. It would easy, just die. Not scuttled across the edge of the book and down on the floor, and then we couldn't find it then. So we were trying to find it. And then I went and got a broom because I thought maybe I can sweep him out the door because he's so large. And I hit him several times with the broom, and all he kept doing was coming towards me. So, yeah, it's awful, isn't it? But I mean, oh, he's gone completely now. Oh, there he is. He's on the wall. So he's having a big, Patrick's having a bit of an excursion around the spare room. But that's my daughter, Haley. She'll say, if they're outside, I can deal with them, but not in the house. It's my house. You don't come into my house. I tried doing that with the see-through container. There was a very funny film clip on YouTube of a guy trying to catch a spider in a container, and obviously it was so funny. I haven't had a tree snake in the car. I've had a spider in the car too. So, yeah, the black widows, we have redbacks here, which are very, very similar. They're black. The redback has a red stripe on its back, but I know that they're very closely related to a black widow. So, again, I don't think anybody's died for many years from these spider bites because we do have anti-venoms, but you're still going to be able to get an anti-venom fairly quickly. Oh, yucky. That's horrible, Shishi. Yeah. So he's gone completely now. I don't even know where he's gone. So there you go. Patrick's absconded. He's gone completely. And so should I. I was trying to think of having something nice for lunch today. Yeah, I don't even like really daddy long legs. They give me the heebie-jeebies. Ew. But again, if they're sort of beyond a certain size and they're not too close to me, I don't have a problem with them. I did have one on my stairs for a couple of days, and I walked past him a few times. That's the sort of thing my daughter won't deal with. But yeah, that's right. They belong outside. I sometimes really think, well, he started moving, Jeanette, when I took his pictures, so he's obviously camera shy. But I often think it would be lovely to have no fears so that I could just pick them up and put them outside, because I know the kid's father used to do that when we were young. He would just pick the spiders up and put them outside. I wish I could get to that point. I really do. But I can't quite get that. I can do it with a beetle. I'm quite happy to pick up a cockroach. They don't worry me at all. And so I'm quite happy to do beetles, cockroaches, or anything like that. But I'm just a little bit nervous of picking spiders up for some reason. I don't know why. But at work, where we used to work, we used to get cockroaches all the time, big cockroaches. Oh, I'm going to say the cockroaches here are quite big too. The big brown ones, they would get to probably about that big. And we used to get them at work all the time, and the women wouldn't even stomp on them. They wouldn't even kill them. They'd just scream. And I just used to go over and just grab a tissue, just pick them up and put them in the bin. Hey, Sarah, you're late. You need what do you call it when you're late? A pass out. Yeah, I tried with the dustpan and brush, Janet, but that didn't work when the spider decided to go on a little run. So I've tried that a few times. I love that. Stay out of my wine or I'm ruthless. Oh, there you go. Isn't that funny? No, cockroaches, and you can't kill them either. That's what the girls at work used to do. They'd all stand around screaming. I'd be like, oh, for goodness sakes. No problem whatsoever. Detention for Sarah for being late. Actually, Jules, that's a really good idea. I think I've sucked a couple of daddy longlegses up in the little, I've got one of those little hand vacuums, and I've sucked a couple of daddy longlegses up in those. Yeah, not the wine. I got that completely. That's too funny, Janet. That's hilarious. Drop the pan and run. That's not helpful, is it? Anyway, I better go. I need to go and cook myself some lunch. I cooked a leg of lamb this morning to have for dinner over the next few days, and it smells absolutely delicious. And I'm going to go down and have pasta for lunch today. Bit hungry. I've been a bit funny with food lately and only been eating when I get hungry. Ooh, I wouldn't like that in a food store. Oh, see, I wouldn't have dealt with that either, Sarah. That's gross. That is absolutely gross. I would not have dealt with that one little bit. Like, cockroaches, so be 'em if they're not bothering anybody. Yummo dinner at Yvonne's. Yes, I'll go down and cook some vegetables, and usually what I do is I'll make up a few plates, so I've got it for a few days there until I get sick of it. I would have walked out of KFC too. That's disgusting. Yeah, KFC, you wouldn't know if you've got those around. It's not so much that they've got those around. My story might be a little bit different, but I went into a place called Yass. I was driving because I've always been on the road. This is very different for me now, being in this lockdown. I've always been on the road, but going from here to where my kids were living, there's a place called Yass, and it has a big service station. And I went into McDonald's there. I rarely eat McDonald's, no word of a lie. It's one of those things I have every now and again because it's so easy. I can get out, go to the toilet, grab a burger or whatever, and just that's the only stop I need to make. And I went into the McDonald's there, and there were so many flies. Absolutely just there was walls of flies everywhere. Now, flies are bad. As much as cockroaches are pretty disgusting, they don't carry diseases, okay? They're actually a very clean creature. But for some unknown reason, we've got this idea that they're bad, but they're not really. Flies carry disease. And this place was full of flies. And I said to the girl, don't worry about my food. The flies are really bad in here. Can't you do anything about them? And she said, we're not allowed to spray fly spray. It's right out in the middle of the country. So, I mean, there's probably lots of cattle and sheep and things like that in the area. And I know they have a lot of cattle trucks and sheep trucks parked in their car park. So it would encourage flies. But I was like, what do you do if you can't spray fly spray? Then you've got all these flies around spreading disease. Surely that's got to be a lot worse than fly spray. So you tell me whether you want to have a little bit of fly spray or whether you want to have flies walking all over your food. Oh, honey, I tried to come on about 12:30 most of the time, but they don't always post straight away. So sometimes they don't post until the next day. So, yeah, keep your eye out for them. Sometimes we have some really good talks on here. It just depends on what everybody gets us talking about. And it's funny because I'm obviously the only person talking, which I think is really quite bizarre. Because I get to the end of it and I feel like I've had conversations with you guys, and then I'm like, hang on a moment, I'm reading what you're writing. I'm not really talking to you. I'm only talking when you give me something to talk about. Fly spray. Oh, spray fly 20 times fast. I've already done some tongue twisters on here. Okay, so 10:30 for you. Yes. So Janet's from Perth too. Yeah, that's what I mean, Hayley. It's sort of like I get off here and I think, wow, I can almost hear you talking to me. And now I've heard some of your voices. So obviously, like Hayley, I've spoken to Hayley. I've spoken to Jules a lot. I've spoken to Lauren a lot. Gigi, I've spoken to. So there's quite a few people that I've had conversations with, which is quite interesting because I can actually hear your voices when you're writing. But yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? So sometimes I get off here and feel like I've had conversations and I haven't really. I've just been talking to myself. So the people next door to me probably think I'm a bit screwy. All right, I'm going. It's nearly an hour. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been absolute fun as normal. Don't forget to give me thumbs up. Thanks, Moira. Thank you so much. She's wonderful. She remembers every time. And I will see you tomorrow. Mwah.